Well then, it's time.
Some of you aren't stuck because of your own mind. Some of you aren't stuck because you don't know what to do or you're not successful. You're stuck from the beginning. You're stuck because inherently you are self-sabotaging your own brain from the success that you have laid out. And today, who better else to have talking about the brain than Tessa herself, which you all know her. And it's going to be a great conversation because it's different, right? There's the mindset side, there's the mental health side, but then there's also just the brain functioning side and exercises and things that we can do to help ourselves. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So for those that are listening, it's the beginning of Q2, it's the end of Q1, and you've either met your Q1 goals or you have not met your Q1 goals. You either feel yourself successful or you're not. But I bet we all could be a little more disciplined in what we want to do in our lives and in our goals. So I want to start with that. The disciplines speak. When people say I'm undisciplined or I haven't followed through with my plans and I'm not sticking to being disciplined, what's really happening in our brain? Now, there's a lot of out numbers, there's a lot of things, variables, but like internally, when I'm saying, hey, I'm undisciplined and I'm not reaching what I'm doing, what's really going on in our heads?
Yeah. So what I really want to start off with is that self-sabotage is not laziness. It's not a lack of discipline, and it's not even a lack of clarity. It happens when your conscious goals are moving in one direction and your subconscious identity is pulling you in another. And identity is always going to win. So let's break these concepts down a little bit. If you think of your nervous system, your brain and all of the nerves going throughout your body, that's your hardware. That's what's actually sensing, processing, reacting to the world in real time. Now, your mind is like the operating system. It's kind of your experience of that system going through that processing. So these, think of your thoughts, your feelings, your perceptions, your interpretations. So then inside the mind starts to get into two different layers. There's that conscious mind. This is where we make our goals. This is what we can actively influence. This is, what we're actively aware of. So think of you saying, I want to make more money. I'm ready to scale. I'm ready to be consistent this quarter. But the conscious mind is very small. It has a very limited capacity of what it can hold and process at any given time. So the subconscious mind is everything else. It's not just in your head. It's actually connected to your entire nervous system, which runs throughout your body. And that subconscious is really connected to all of your past experiences stemming since birth, your emotional memories, and your repeated patterns. So the subconscious is holding way more data than the conscious mind ever could. And that's where that identity lives. So consciously, when you really want something, but subconsciously the system's like, that's not who we are, we're not familiar here, that's when you start to get that mismatch. And unfortunately, no matter how hard you try, you can't talk your subconscious into or out of anything.
And we're going to get into some action steps to help you with that. But why, I guess you kind of answered it, but now I'm going to ask it anyway. Why does the brain then treat like our growth, like we do grow, whether that's, physically, mentally, or in our business? Why does the brain start to treat that more like something dangerous and not part of our identity?
Yeah, so the subconsciously and the nervous system and biologically, we like what's familiar because the familiar is perceived as safe. If you think about it, we've experienced it before, we repeat it, we're used to it. That's kind of where that homeostasis comes from. We like to hold on to that what's familiar. So when we encounter any sort of uncertainty or change, that brings a level of, well, we don't know about this. We don't know if we can handle this. We don't know if we're going to, have a threat to our survival. So what happens is the nervous system doesn't start fighting with you like the conscious mind does. You don't start overthinking and justifying and things. It actually just starts to slow you down. It creates hesitation. It makes things feel harder than they should. And that's its way of kind of bringing you back to that familiar baseline. And because this is subconscious, you're not even really actively aware it's even happening. And by the time it does happen, you just think, oh, this is who I am. This is who I'll always be.
So that just came up. I just had, it's the end of the month. We're recording this, folks. Yeah, I know. We don't do it live, of course, yet. We will be. But I just had this conversation with one of my clients. She's gone through a divorce last year. Business is not doing well, trying to get back ahead, kind of wants to rebrand and redo herself. And she had brought this exact same thing up of, she said, it feels like this always happens to me. Like I was born into this world and this is always what happens. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Where like your self says makes you feel like that this is your path. You deserve to be this way. This is the only thing that we have. Is that kind of along those lines?
Yes, definitely. So, what's happening is your system is actually just returning to its baseline, which is a familiar state, which is the feeling of being you, which for a lot of us comes down to, oh, this always happens. Oh, this negative thing always happens. We don't weigh the positives as much because of that negativity bias in the brain, but that's exactly what is happening. And we think that it's just, the circumstances that keep happening to us when it's really coming from the state of our nervous system.
So is that then, I know we had talked about mindset a little bit, but is that an active mindset thing issue? Or is that an active, like, I need to train my brain like a muscle situation?
Yeah, so it's not a mindset issue because that would all stem in the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is what we can reason, plan, strategize, we can create logic, we can fight with ourselves. All of these things live in the realm of the conscious mind. But unless we're targeting the subconscious and bringing the body into our mind, then we're not going to be able to create that change, because we could tell ourselves all day that we now are better with certain things, or we are capable of change. But if the body doesn't feel that, and the body doesn't feel safe in attaining that new state, it's always going to keep pulling us back down to baseline. And that's something that all humans share. It's not one person versus the other.
And before we move on to the next segment, people talk about this all the time, survival mode, right? I'm in survival mode. I feel like I'm just trying to survive. Hell, I say it to myself all the time. Although when you look at today's, situation and the things that are going on, sometimes it's true. I'm just trying to survive. But is that like feeling, and when we say those things, is that because that's our comfort level? That's our baseline, is just that survival mode due to whether it's how we were raised, our trauma, or whatever? Is that what like our body resets back to? And that's why we feel like we're just surviving?
Yeah, well, so survival mode is a thing that we share with all mammals. That's, primal instinct. When our nervous system sense a threat, the reactive primal parts of our brain immediately light up and all of our blood flow is directed there. And that is a literal survival instinct. It helps us narrow in on our environment. It helps us get really zeroed in on what we need to do immediately. And we start to tune out the bigger picture, right? Because we don't need that in the survival mode. So, what separates us as a species is being able to quiet those parts of the brain and actually redirect blood flow to the higher order regions that are responsible for strategizing, creative thinking, bigger picture kind of thoughts, getting perspective in those survival modes. So when we say, that we're locked in survival mode, it means we're not employing the tools to be able to make that switch. And we're just kind of living in more of this limited capacity.
I like that. That tracks. That tracks very well with my brain. Don't know why, but it does. All right. One of my favorite segments, noise versus the truth. So I'm going to give you a couple takes that we have pulled from the interwebs. And I want to give and let me know if that's just some bullshit or it's the kind of truth. All right.
Okay.
So the statement, very simple. You just need more willpower.
I'm going to say that that's got to be noise, because again, your willpower is not like, I think the way we think of willpower is that you just need to want it more. You just need to send more emails, do more things, put in more hours. And the problem is you're not getting these outcomes based on that strategy alone, because that would just be operating from the conscious mind. So you are going to have success with when your system can hold that success without threat. Because when the threat is triggered, that's when you're going to hesitate, overthink instead of execute, create that friction. So you can have all the willpower in the world, but if your body's not feeling that, that's safe and that's right for you to do, it's just going to slow you down.
And this one is kind of roughly the same, but I'm guilty of saying this to my kids, specifically when it comes to sports. Now that I've read this and learning about the conscious and subconsciousness, that's a problem. But hey, this one is, if you really wanted to, you'd do it. Like that one, when I say it now, it kind of makes me cringe a little bit because like I've heard it so many times. I say it to, my kids and stuff like that. But if I really wanted it, I would do it. Isn't that same battle of subconscious versus conscious mind and kind of the willpower conversation?
Absolutely. And I also think what's interesting with this particular comment is, and something that no one really talks about, is that the idea of success sometimes triggers just as much threat as failure. So, because any sort of next level is going to bring more pressure, more visibility, more responsibility, all of that is risky because it's unknown, it's unfamiliar to the system. So, change of any kind is still going to feel unsafe. So, we may consciously want it really bad, but to our systems, it's like we can't go there just yet. We haven't found safety in that reality because the brain doesn't have a way to navigate it.
Okay. Okay. Next one. High earners don't have mindset problems, they have math problems.
No, I work with a lot of high earners and they have a lot of mindset problems. And mindset, really, just in terms of the mind is running wild with overthinking and patterns that are actually self sabotaging their efforts forward. So it's definitely not just an earner thing.
And I think what you had just said previously too, of like success brings it out just as much as the failure part. And I think those that I should say I know, those that I've worked with as well, it's that same thing. It's that exposure you talked about. It comes with more responsibilities. It comes with more and more in this. And everyone always asks me, they're like, how do I become rich? Well, first of all, you don't want to become rich. Okay. You just want to be wealthy in the way you want to, because it does come with unforeseen things that you don't know, the stresses that you don't know that you might not want or your body might not want to deal with, right? And I think that
100%.
has to do with the higher earners as well. Is some of them get lucky enough and they're designed that way. Others, it's a lot to take on to be making $500,000, right? Like that's more than a lot of people make in a decade almost, right? Like, so to transition that's interesting. Now this one's a little different, I think. And I don't even have an answer for this one. So I'm really excited about this. All right, ready? Just automate it and you're fine.
Ooh, this is a good one because automating things helps with a lot of decision fatigue. Then that builds up cognitive load in the brain, and that is what actually makes you feel more drained throughout the day. And you have less cognitive resources to be able to devote to your strategies and your plans and whatnot. So I believe that automating is really important to help the brain in that way. But you can't automate everything because if you do, you're really taking out your heart and soul and effort that needs to go into building what you're building. So if you automate everything and you detach from it completely, you're not actually giving yourself the focus and the effort that's needed.
And I just thought of another topic for us this year to talk about, and I'm gonna throw it in here and tease it. But is because with automation, we think of efficiencies, we think of AI, that type of stuff. I bet you have some type of data in your database that talks about the effects of AI and our brain cognitive ability and all of that stuff, probably. I think we'll have another topic on that later this year, folks. But without further ado, though, we had promised it from the beginning. We've teased it. I know everyone's asking, okay, cool, Tessa, this is awesome. I know my subconscious and my conscious. Well, how do I improve? How do I make it better? What can I do? What are some exercises? What are steps that can actually allow me to become better and grow that side?
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about three big things to start doing this week. Number one is starting to identify the pattern. not the behavior, just the pattern kind of behind it. So the real question is starting to ask yourself, when do I pull back? Look before those times, right before visibility or responsibility increases, maybe right after a win or a loss, when you're perceiving maybe judgment, criticism, or even when the stakes are getting higher and you're getting into that level. Because the pattern is not what you're actually doing, which is what everyone wants to focus on and say, this is what I always do. It's the why behind it. And then understanding that protection. So every sabotage pattern is doing something for you. If the system senses the threat, it's creating the sense of delay, distraction, unnecessary complexity just to regulate you and bring you back to that familiar state of thinking and feeling, even if that familiar is what's uncomfortable. So the patterns you repeat, the decisions you avoid, the ceilings that you keep hitting, that is what actually needs your attention. But not from the stance of what's wrong with me, I'm never going to be able to overcome this. It's more from how has my system learned to protect me in these ways? Because what we need to remember is that an emotion is not just a feeling, it is an electrical, chemical, and hormonal signature that runs throughout the body. So if you approach these issues or these sabotaging patterns as frustration, shame, anger, that chemistry is actually affecting your next move. It's affecting the opportunities that you see. It's affecting your ability to move forward. But if you approach them with more understanding and a lens of this awareness rather than, again, this frustration, you're actually changing the chemical signature of your body and you're opening your brain to more opportunities to move forward. So number two are very awareness based. And the third is starting to regulate the system in a new way. So right now you're regulating yourself, even though it doesn't feel like that, by bringing yourself back to baseline and doing things that you typically always do. So instead of trying to fix the procrastination, the inconsistency, the overthinking with just outputs that are of the conscious mind, start to really bring your system into a different kind of safety mode. So instead of those immediate moments where, okay, this just happened and now all I want to do is make this work, go walk outside and be in nature without distraction. Do a slow breathing technique for just 2 minutes. Set a quick phone. Set a quick timer for that. Splash some cold water on your face. Just shake out the body and discharge some of that stress metabolism, because what's happening then is you are now turning off protection mode, redirecting blood flow up to those higher order regions of the brain, and you are now going to start feeling differently about the situation at hand. And that's what's going to look like is more available to you.
It's a very good idea. First of all, we all should be outside in nature as much as possible. Like, let's all be
Yes.
real. Now, some of us have to deal with shitty winters and stuff like that. But I I've been taking that when we went on spring break, and I just posted about this too. Is like I was going through a lot, taking on a lot of weight for my clients and stuff like that. And I recognized, because we have no service, and when you're driving 10-hour days, there's boredom that sets in, but you get a lot of time to reflect. And that's kind of what I challenge myself with too. Is those things are going to happen, those feelings are going to happen, those situations are going to happen. But instead of, whether it's spiraling or going this route, what I'm going to do is put it down. I'm going to go either read a book, go outside, or do some type of exercise to kind of like, for me, without knowing what you just said, was purely just to distract myself and to hopefully breathe better and then deal with that situation later. Because in life, I've learned there's really not that many emergencies. Our brain makes more emergencies than there actually are. And so if I could take that time, maybe I can come back to it. So now I actually have you being the expert telling me that's exactly what you should do. So now my brain better do it. It better do it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the difference. Like we think of, I don't really want to do this because I know it's just a distraction, but it's actually a vital part of regulation.
Now that we told people what to do, like we have some steps there. But what are like a couple of mistakes people need to try to avoid, or that they do and that we try to get them not to do?
Well, number one is trying to fix it with more doing and more structure. So when you're already in kind of a reactive survival mode, let's say you experienced a loss, something didn't go the way that you wanted. Typically what we want to do, what feels safe to do, is to just start doing more, start planning, start strategizing. And again, when you're only doing that from the reactive part of the brain, you're only kind of operating at a limited capacity. So take that time to just regulate the system, even if it is for 10 minutes, that's already going to shift the nervous system back into a more regulated state. Another big thing that people always do is they wait to feel ready for things. We think that, we're just going to feel ready once we're confident enough or once we've done enough, but readiness is actually the result of taking those steps forward and kind of acting on what scares you and what feels unfamiliar. And then the last one is definitely thinking that, all of this is personal and something is wrong with you. It's just that something is patterned within you, and all of those patterns can be trained.
I think that's what you just said was probably the most important piece is like all the patterns can be trained, right?
Everything.
The brain can be trained. You need to take the time to do so, which means you got to slow the fuck down, people, right? Like slow down and have a game plan for that. As we get towards the end, I love to end this way, aside from that, we can always talk about your business, but I want you to punch everyone in the face with a very hard truth. Like the hardest truth you can tell someone that slaps them in the face right now, that gets them to wake up from wherever they are. But what is one hard truth?
Hard truth, I would say, is that you don't rise to your goals. Your goals are important. Your goals are, I would say, 10% of what you need to do and where your focus is, but you are going to repeat your patterns. If you don't work on this and you don't take this seriously enough day in and day out, this kind of consistency, you're just doomed to kind of repeat all of these.
But it's so hard. It takes so much work. People, you have to do the work. I don't know how much more to tell you as an adult at this point in time, but like it takes time and effort to make sure your finances are going in the right way. It takes time and effort to make sure that your physical body is going in a certain way. It takes time for your mental side. It's going to take time for your brain power as well in order to fix it too. Yeah, it sucks. We all wish we could be lazy or it just be given to us, but that's not our adult world. It's not where we live. Overall, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's so worth it. It takes time, but what the skills you're building with money are then also going to translate into other areas of your life. It's going to translate into your relationships and your ability to feel present, and it's all cohesive because it's all connected. So doing the work now or something that really motivates you like money is going to pay off tenfold in ways that you can't even imagine.
If someone doesn't want to try to do it themselves or doesn't know how, what's the best route for them to seek help, get help, or be coached in a way to do these exercises and to develop their own set of tools?
Yeah, I think it's definitely best to work with someone who can see your blind spots, someone who's trained to see patterns where you might only see like, this is just who I am, because exposing those patterns and bringing it to the forefront and then giving you the tools to rewire them is really what is going to go a long way for all of the skills that we're talking about here. And working with your brain and being able to see changes in the brain is also really impactful, because you don't just think, okay, I'm doing a bunch of mindset techniques and they're not working. You can actually see those changes. So now we have the tools to be able to do that.
Which is amazing. You just got to get to work, people. Or just like Nike, which I'm sure this will not go well for the algorithm, but be like Nike, just do it. Get out there and do it. Do the work. The resources are out there. Tessa and her team are out there. Obviously, this episode's going to be out there, so just make sure that you do put in the work. I know I'm going to keep working on it, and so when we have our, probably not the next episode with you, but when we come back with the topic that we talked about earlier, maybe I'll give everyone feedback of what I've been working on, how it works for me. So, Tessa, I appreciate everything that you do. Love the rebrand. For everyone, go check it out. It'll be, I don't know, wherever the editors put it. Go check out the new rebrand, give some thoughts and feedback. If at anything, reach out to us. Comment, DM us. We love to help you as much as possible. And again, thank you, Tessa, for being part of the collective.
Thanks, Toy. Excited to be a part.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.